All right, so character model sheets. You won't be creating any character model sheets this week, but your project next week will involve creating a character model sheet. Basically, everything that we have been doing would culminate into a character model sheet. Character model sheets are um, typically multiple sheets, although this is just one sheet, but it's usually multiple sheets that you hand your animators, usually 2D animation, in order to be able to draw the character consistently and to show how they should be handled, both for animation as well as different angles and such. This Bugs Bunny one is it's an old one, but it's sort of kind of the gold standard that people usually compare them to. Okay. So I'm just going to show you, and I'll probably come back to this one to show you why this one is so well received. But I'm going to show you just basically what some of the elements are. So first off is the construction model. So typically what you're going to see is that we did this, I think, last week. The character, they'll show you how to draw the character, right? What primitive forms are utilized in order to draw them. They'll also use scale. So like he's two heads to his feet and then slightly under. If you look at here, are they using heads? Yeah. So he's 4 heads tall and then his ears are 1.5 heads past his head, right? So it gives you a unit of measurement. um, so they'll have little notes and things like that, but they'll show you basically how to draw them conceptually. That'll be one of the things. And like I said, we kind of already did that. Another one will be a turnaround sketch, which that's what we're going to be doing this week. And basically it's how to draw the character from multiple angles. Now, depending on the production, they might have a whole bunch of them. They might only have a couple. So typically what I ask students, this one's particularly useful for um, 3D. So I usually have students do a front, three quarters, and side view. Because you can use the front view and the orthographic, and then use this to model from the front view, and you can use the side view to model from the side. And then you have the three quarters as sort of a guide of what it should look like when you're, halfway between the two. You can sometimes see three quarters back and back, and I've even seen more than this. Some people will even do a top and a bottom view. It kind of depends, but you don't usually see. There aren't too many angles that are literally directly above or directly below. Again, that's one of those things where it might be useful if you're creating it in 3D, but not as useful really for just traditional animation. But this way, it makes sure that there isn't any hidden details, and if you do need to draw a character from a different angle, you will have that readily available because you have this tournament sketch. Okay. Another thing that may or may not be included is a character lineup. Again, this is another thing that you will very often see in a 3D production as well. So sometimes what they'll do is they'll just do a drawing, they'll just do silhouettes. But it lets you know what the height of characters are in comparison to each other. This is also super important if you're doing visual effects. So you might have a human, and then you'll show like how big the Autobot should be in comparison. So that way, when people are compositing them together, they make sure that they are the correct scales. I swear, if you watch that first Transformers movie, the Michael Bay one, um, the Transformers are all different sizes. Like they're wildly big and then small, and it just doesn't make any sense. But I'm assuming they just did it to make sure it fit with the shots. But it always drives me nuts when I see it. I don't think most people notice it, but definitely notice it myself. So this is a really typical thing, particularly if you have a large cast of characters, you can definitely do that. It's not always super necessary. Action poses, in some regards, as much as those other ones are important, a lot of times people consider this the most important one. And the reason for that is that it doesn't give you just the like how to draw them, but it gives you a sense of their personality as well. And so these will typically have all sorts of different poses. You'll notice that they're also including kind of different perspectives. Like here's a three quarters back, here's a three quarters back, here's a front. This is a kind of a top down, right? Three quarters. They're all three quarters in general in some way. But it gives you an idea of the type of stuff that he would be doing. If the character has a signature pose, that would definitely be included here. Like they're always doing some sort of like "eat my shorts, man" or whatever it will be. You would definitely see those within this. Facial expressions. This can take many different forms. So you can see this. Obviously, they have a bunch of different facial expressions. Not a lot of variation. If you look at The Simpsons, actually, it's pretty minimal. But sometimes they'll also have ones for just uh the phonemes or whatever, the right, because Visage is 3D, yeah, phonemes. Um, they'll have different ones for those, so you can see the different mouth positions, and then you can just plop those in when you're animating them as well. So these are kind of like the same thing as the action poses, but just more specifically on the face, because there are shots where it's just it's a close up and you're just seeing the head. So this way it'll give you kind of a point of reference for that. And like I already mentioned, typically with the construction, there'll be lots of notes. So if you look, you can see they have these little things like, oh, make sure you do this. Hair should have this many spikes, or, nose is always cheated. It's never going to be whatever. Look at it like it's a can. I don't know, but basically you'll include those sorts of things. So again, if we look up here, what you'll see is they have a construction model more or less here. They have some measurements here, right? We see a good 3/4 view. This is sort of a turnaround for all intents and purposes, but you see they do have a 3/4 back as well. So that's also included. Um, you see some squats and stretching. We definitely have facial expressions. We have some like signature poses. And it's all pretty concise within one sheet. It gives you a pretty good idea of how to draw the character. You could elaborate obviously on this, but for one sheet of paper, that's pretty good. If you go down here, you can click on this image and it will bring you to a website um, where it'll give you all sorts of different character lineups, character design, toddlers, character design, um, women, all sorts of stuff. So, and if you go, let me see, visual library, character anatomy boards, character design boards, it's just a bunch of character design uh, artwork. So I just highly suggest looking at this because I find it pretty interesting, and you can kind of see how different people are approaching the drawings. But you'll see a common, and you can see they're even for 3D. They do a lot of these. You'll see some common methods, right? You'll see a lot of construction modeling. You'll see a lot of different angles. You'll see expressions and different poses, and basically all the things that I'm mentioning here. Okay, and they have anime examples. So like here's one from Attack on Titan. Um, but there's a whole bunch of them. So different styles, different studios, things like that. So definitely take a look at that to just see how they're doing it, and don't just rely on what I showed you here. I just grabbed the Simpsons one because they're such a well-known, and I mean they've been running. I don't even know how long. Has it been 30 years now? I know it's over 20. Um, that they have a pretty well-established character vibe. So yeah, so check that out.